joined by 8 students, MA Fashion Design from colleges around Europe and the UK. We're also joined by 2 people who mean a lot to John, his muses, Valentine and Thomas.
Thank you, guys.
And I think I'm going to start by asking you...
Let me just skip,
relationship.
because I think Galliano... there we go.
I don't know, no one's ever followed that, but it must be
Yeah, I believe the students ask
There's
questions
an empathy,
first.
I think, when we're working as
Or is it
well, which is
after?
quite rare to find.
I can't really remember.
Sometimes you can find great people, but they're real chatterboxes. You know, when you're trying to work something out, they kind of know when to just keep strum, which is really respectful. But they don't stop speaking with their body. So the way that Thomas will reach for a pocket or miss it or not, it starts to tell me what's wrong there, or just the way Valentine is standing or a position she takes. So we've developed like a shorthand, if you like, where I can still concentrate and try and find solutions. And then doing so many collections as well, I've grown to somewhat rely on them as well. I mean, there's so many fittings, and then, you know, all your team is taking notes, but then you might come back to that fitting like 3 weeks later because it's taken that long to make the adjustments, corset, something like that. It takes time. And sometimes I forget. So Valentine will remind me, oh, you did this and you did that. And remind us all.
Oh yeah, Dammy, do you know something I remember that was really interesting in his research for this collection? Because I also went to the Margiela Ricci when the show happened in Paris. So for people that don't know, sometimes, not all of the time, but sometimes brands do resees of their collection. So what it is sometimes it's the day of, sometimes it's the day after. They invite like journalists, influencers, guests, whoever, friends, to come and see the collection, but in like an installation format where all the garments are there. There's information about the garments. There's the research, sometimes even patterns, different things. So I went to the Ricci and there was a lot of research in historically corsetry for women, but also for men, which is why he talks about this idea of all his shows being co-ed. And he talks about his research in making these shows co-ed. And it's down to literally the way that he, you know, does research for corsetry, like doing corsetry for both men and women and seeing how they've been made for both men and women and taking from that to inform this collection because there was corsetry for both men and women. So I'm not sure if he mentioned it in this interview, but it's something interesting.
You know what he did mention though? He mentioned his muses teaching all the other models how to breathe in corsets because, you know, they were so tight and it obviously transformed the silhouette and, you know, created that image that you have. But that on par, well, the male muse is gonna come out, but yeah, I think it's at 5 minutes, I believe, when his male muse comes out, something like that.
Yeah.
Ditto Thomas, some of the more complex things, the gestural things that he has kind of given birth to and created. So he reminds us as well, which keeps us on our toes. I mean, right through to the end of the process. I mean, we do lighting checks with mood checks, walk checks. Everything we create, we do with these 2. And then they share all that with the eventual casting. So when they come in, if there's a certain mood or stance or way of walking, they'll share that with the muses that come in, which is really fun. And voila.
John, in the Artisanal 2024 show in January, you created this technique called emotional cutting.
He's going to talk about this emotional cutting thing, which is interesting. But isn't it so funny that because Galliano pronounces artisanal as artisanal, everyone that interviews him now says artisanal? It's like the influence of John Galliano. We're going to all start speaking like him.
I love it. That's the ski right there.
That's John Galliano law.
Cutting, which is what you were describing before, the kind of gestures that you put into pulling up a hem or, you know, sort of pushing down a pocket, or the unconscious and conscious things that we kind of do to our clothes to convey feelings and so on. I would love for you to tell us and maybe show us how that happens in this room when you're doing it.
I mean, it started off, there's a board over there, the second board, which is just some of the influences, the stillness and
shout out to my brother Tomas
of Brass Eye. some characters of low-life Parisian society of that time, thinking about where the collection was happening, which was by the Seine and under the
John
bridge,
Galliano's
and
choice of words
it was a
sometimes makes me
nighttime show,
cringe.
and there
Bro
was going to
said
be a
low
full
life
moon, so it's quite
society.
Oh,
so different things happen from, oh, show me, Thomas, that you're trying to avoid, you don't want the hems of your trousers to get wet because you're jumping over a puddle, to Valentine, it's really cold, up for 2 days, 2 nights, and you're coming back from the best time of your life. Or you've been caught unawares, so you've come out and you've just grabbed what looks like your boyfriend's cardigan. So every character you saw in the last défilé, that's not styling. The clothes are actually cut like that. You just simply put a hand in a pocket, and that's it, you're fixed, or the cardigan, or whatever it is, to help tell the story. They're like my kind of, silent actors, and the clothes of the script.
Mac drop. But yeah, let's go back to the video.
Because when you get it right, that's when the magic can happen.
Indeed.
Valentine, do you want to?
So John was showing me some.
I love this part, by the way.
Some Brassai photographies, and he gave me this cardigan and told me to wear it in the way that it was cold next to La Seine. It was by night, so I just grabbed it and it that way, and this is how it came out.
And then it's cut like this, right, John?
The cardigan was just straight. In this case, it's quite traditional.
Yeah.
We wanted to keep a realness to it, and the finishing, which is this peel that makes it look really old. The idea that it had been maybe an ancestral hand-me-down or belonged to her lover. And the narrative starts, why has she appeared by the Seine? Completely done up in this corset, that this cardigan that's been put on, dressed in haste. So again, you start to build the narrative with the elements that could have an effect on the clothes. Obviously, this cardigan's been rained on, and she's loved it to death. She was kind of loving this stuff at one point as well in the pictures. An old friend, loved to death teddy bear or doll.
Your muses are sort of...
That was a strong reference point, I remember, in this collection, right? The reference to the dolls. Because that obviously was what inspired Pat McGrath to make that sort of glass-like skin that's supposed to model a porcelain look. And that was something I also saw in the Risi, like all these different historical dolls that John Galliano had in his references. And they recreated those makeup looks quite specifically for the show.
Choreographed, but also very much inject themselves into it, according to the garments that you create for them.
Yeah, I work with a guy, a movement director called Pat P. And sometimes for the younger models who haven't done such a show, and because it's not on a runway, you're as close as you are to me, and there's a certain parcours to walk around. You have to remember with the photographers of the film, the videos. You have to remember, there's quite a lot of information. And sometimes then, especially with a corset and then heels, you're really asking a lot of a young muse. Although they did come in for corset training, which was done in the most professional way we could, where we understood the correct way of breathing, where to place your diaphragm, and then only to breathe from there up. So it was almost like Pilates. And we shared as much information as both Thomas and Valentine on the easiest way to stand while you were putting the corset on, and different timings. We'd have like 3, halfway, 3/4, and then the full. And of course, some of my music walk like angels, but as I said, sometimes it was challenging, especially we did a little section that was inspired by all the broken dolls. And so together we were working with some muses that, they were great in the
Like, bro,
heels.
look at
That
how
was
the
really
models
good.
are walking.
And
And
then
like,
separately, when you put the corset and the heel together, it just became something that was very alien to them. But we coaxed them through, and we actually turned it into a bit of a choreography. So they were a little bit wobbly, so they'd walk. And when they were feeling they were going over, we'd just say, well, hold that broken pose, just hold it, center yourself, breathe, then take the next 4 steps and then break again. So that feeling that they were going to go over, that horrible, anxious, that they could have just fallen, was turned into a shape. And I think they pulled it off really well. And this is something that we worked out with these guys as well. So everyone got round the circuit in one piece, which was good. Thomas got it immediately and just stood there and did this thing, this, shape. And I was like, what's going on here? What's going on? I reached out to Olivia and went, check him out. What's he doing? We were both like, And then he starts this walk. This is before we've even created the outfit.
How do you make sure that you keep evolving in your...
I want to skip to this part because I remember you had something really interesting at this
Surrounding
point.
myself with like-minded people, young people as well. Getting out there, it's important to stay connected with what's going on out there. You may be at the most fabulous art school or fashion school, and that's one part of it's really important, but getting out there is even more important, and meeting like-minded people, graphic artists, sculptors, painters, hang with them as well. I think that it's very important. So I still like to go out, and I still do my little research trips, and as Anders mentioned, we're allowed to take 5 to 6, I think, stages for a year. And they're really included in all the process from A to Z. And for me, that's important that they get to see that. And it's just really interesting to see, feel, hear how they see. And vice versa. I think they're quite like some of the old tricks that I know. But I'm also learning too, and I never stop that. And I think that's what can help to keep you relevant, and that you have something to say.
Yeah, what do you do when you feel stuck with your work, or when you start doubting yourself?
Do you want the good news now? You never stop doubting. We all have moments of doubt, don't we? I mean, I think that's only natural, but I think it's how you manage it and channel it. It can turn into a positive. Try and keep notes of things. Ideas come at strange moments, as you know. Keep notes, keep a notebook, keep a sketchbook every day, and just keep putting it in there, and then you'll find when that moment comes where you have to put something together, that initial seed is already planted, your body almost knows it. Like many artists, when they first produce their first album. Someone
mentioned the website. Yeah, we're going to look at the website after. The Margiela website's really cool. It's really, really interesting. I want to see if I can skip to where's the part where he started really talking about going into the creative stuff. Wait, let me just see.
I wanted to say something, right? While you look for that.
Yeah.
When he's talking about the movement and the gestures and the way that the models are standing, one thing that is ever important, especially as an artist, right? And it's so funny because every time I talk to fashion designers, they low-key hate that, or not even hate, but they don't really take to the idea that it's good to be able to be a good artist in terms of drawing and putting pen to paper. And obviously it's quite an old-fashioned thing, fairly,
yeah.
But at the same time, going to live drawing and understanding gestures is important. And then on top of that, I remember when I was in animation school, there was these things called live action video, which is being able to project onto an animation, like a doll or a maquette or anything like that, actual gestures, right? And you would create these videos, and it will either be you in your bedroom or you recording other people, and figuring out how people actually move within space and that discovery process. So when he talks about this, it just fills me with that understanding that he cares about, one, the way that people move, but also that there is this art refining process, because he's been doing this for so many years at Margiela, right? I remember he was talking about the rapping one season, right? I believe that was 2016, and then 2018 the characterization spring 2020 was a characterization, and then now we get all of these things. But it started very, very small within his collections, and it's evolved over time. So yeah, I like that he has the value and understanding gesture and personification and characterization. Yeah, no. Let's listen to some Galliano some more.
Yeah, let's listen to some more bourgeoisie artisanal.
And they're like 18, 19. They have all those years to pour out the agony, the angst, the happiness, and it flows really fast. And then they have to do their second album, and they're only 19 or 20, and they haven't had that time of life. But the record producers want the next album. There's very few that will step back and say, well, you know what? I think I need another 4 or 5 years to live. And we can't do that. I see they can. But we can. But yeah, it's just having time for yourself, I think, to replenish. It's really important.
I wanted to know, how do you unite your creative integrity with commercial demands? How do you balance between what you want to create as a designer and what consumers want to see and buy?
It is a crazy timetabling that we have for ready to wear, for sure, because the dates are written in stone. You have your market dates, and that collection has to be in the showroom at that, and show dates, and that can't change. But what I find with when I first came to Maison Margiela, that there was a small collection, and it was called Artisanal, which was still a little bit bricolage, but super interesting. But having been brought up in couture, we kind of little by little turned it into that, which gave me a little bit more time to define a line, develop a technique, a little bit more time, which could be hugely inspirational and beneficial when translated for the other collections, which do have commercial objectives. And yeah, to be a success, you have to tick all those boxes. And as you're developing the artisanal, you can see some things, or you feel just the energies around you. People say, oh, that's really cool. I wish I could have that. We take like mental notes, and some things, whether it's a shape, a sleeve, the way it's been set in, or a technique that's evolved, we start to drip feed into the ready-to-wear teams, who then, as I'm still working on this, they're trying to find industrial solutions to some of those techniques so they can be affordable, and the clothes that we want to wear.
That's so interesting what Galliano said about the way that they take the artisanal collections and the couture techniques and find a way. So even before they've even finished the process of making those collections, they are already drip feeding the ideas to the ready-to-wear team so that they can work hard to try and find ways to make those ideas cheaper and those techniques cheaper, so it's, viable and a ready-to-wear price. That's interesting how exactly they do that.
Yeah, and if you look just on the, just on the collections that precede each other. So when it goes from couture, fall 2018, fall 2028, fall 2018, spring 2018, all of those things kind of are interconnected. So each year is actually values one another. And you can tell the difference. So I'm just looking right now at the fall 2018 couture collection and then the fall 2018 ready to wear, and you can see the translation that is actually put into, oh, this is what ready to wear looks like, as opposed to when we're on couture level and it's art. You get it? So yeah.
All right.
This is literally the collection I was talking about in the beginning. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. But no, I love it because it goes back to that thing that he's always saying where couture is the highest level of dressmaking. So everything has to start with couture and then everything happens after.
Yeah, and then look at
you can literally see
for 2018 collection right after you
the
see
through
this one.
line.
And it's literally
you can see it.
No, it's just
which is something he's always done, distilling the couture ideas into the ready to wear.
Yeah. And he's done it so when you look at even spring 2020 ready to wear, for 2019 couture, for 2019 ready to wear, it's literally just sisters of each other in essence. And he made it go even further when it was the pandemic times. That's when he really to be honest.
No, I told you from the pandemic, I was like, yeah, this guy's crazy.
Those 10 collections, oh my word, crazy. Anyway.
So that's how I do it. You need the emotion, you need the heart, you need the soul, and then decide, well, decline to make it more wearable, commercial, easier to wear. But that only comes when you've got that strong statement, I think. Does that help?
So painters or sculptors, they can create on their own, right? While fashion designers have to rely on a fashion community. How, as a dressmaker, how do you retain your own personal vision of fashion while including others in the creative process?
I try to include them right at the beginning, and everyone, really, to bring them into the story and what I'm trying to do, and then you give them space. They come back with more ideas or more research, and the same with the ateliers. You kind of show them a little something you're trying to do and give them space to come back. Sometimes it's wrong, sometimes it's right, sometimes it's a surprise. And I embrace that. It's better than what I had thought of. So we kind of build it all together as we're going along.
Can you think
wait.
a collaboration experience that really stands out to you? And
that was so key and important, and it's not to be overlooked, right? Because he's really talking about the process of building along the way, and sometimes we can miss the key markers because we don't just have conversations around the things that we're creating as we're creating them. And I know a lot of creative people like to create in these holes and come out and have this magnificent thing ready and everything like that. But sometimes it's just a sketch, and sometimes that sketch is rubbish, and you need someone to tell you that when it's still a sketch, as opposed to when you buy all the materials for it. Do you know what I mean? And having the
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
But yeah.
Let's see what else Galliano is talking about.
And how did it challenge and enrich your creative process?
I can think of many, but I think this last collection was very challenging. You never stop learning with the bias cuts. Each fabric teaches you something different, but then to try and develop the bias cut, but over a corseted silhouette and altered body shape was really challenging. I mean, as much as we knew about the bias and corsets, both of which I'd done before, for the two to work together there was just no answers. We had to work everything out as we went along. I think we all learned a lot, which is that's really exciting when, you come in wanting to do your best. At least I do. I hope you do too when you go to school. You just want to do your best. And then when you have moments like that and you think that you've achieved something or learned something, it's really good for the soul, I think. It's really good for the soul. So I'd say this one was the most challenging. I mean...
So, John, in the recent years, you and Maison Margiela have been really transparent about the process behind the collection, and I wanted to know how important is it to you to show the behind the scenes and how the collection is made?
I think it's really important to communicate that. I started to do it during the pandemic when I was trying to find new ways to communicate and reinforce the ethics of the house, what we stood for, to explain a little bit the act of creation and how important it was, and that these clothes had a soul. They weren't just cookie-cutting clothes. They were born out of love, craft, tradition, all those things. And sometimes it's nice to explain that, to understand better what you're buying into. It's important.
My question is, what makes the heart of a collection?
You know when you start to get obsessed about something, that is the heart, that is the heartbeat that will pull you through the process, I think. Sometimes I have 3 or 4 obsessions before lunchtime. You can imagine. I encourage it.
If you were in our place and you got to meet somebody who inspires you, who would that be and what would you ask them?
I think that would be Madeleine Vionnet.
Let's go.
And I think I'd ask all the questions that I couldn't get answers from her work. That's been...
Wait, let's just pause before he continues. This goes into this idea of Galliano has been obsessed with the techniques of a lot of these designers. Obviously, he just said that he learnt something new about the ways that you can use the bias cut, even though he's been using it for so many years. And finding that balance between the corsetry and the bias cut was where he found the challenges. But it's so great to see a designer that is so obsessed that they're literally if this designer was alive, there's so many things about their techniques that I've not been able to figure out after these many years that I would just ask them all the design, technical questions that I need answers to. Those kind of designers will always win. Designers that obsessed with techniques like that.
Bro, it's so important to be a student of the game, right? And some people don't want to look at other designers because, oh no, I don't want to be influenced by,
that stuff annoys me, bro.
Just to say, it's fam, chill. People have been great before you and people will be great after you. What you're doing to people who have understanding is adding to the greater context of what has been created already. And whether you believe there's nothing new under the sun or your designs are divined by an almighty power, it's there are still fundamentals and techniques that you can learn from that other people have created, and ways that people have spoke and had reference points prior to you. And it's people would be now influenced by Fiorucci or brutalist movement or the mod movement. It's wait, chill. People have already been influenced by that. Maybe you want to look at it so you don't look like you're copying somebody else, because that's happened also. So yeah.
No, but I think it's just some of the greatest designers we've seen that we are aware of, I'll say. If you just look at why they are so good at construction and they can come up with so many solutions for so many issues, is because you think of the likes of Cristobal Balenciaga. He studied so many designers' patterns. He would literally cut the garments into their pieces so he could just study the pattern and then construct it back together and see what he learns from. That is literally what these couturiers did. So to think that you're above that and, you know, I don't want to be inspired by any design, that's not why you're looking at their work. It's not to take that idea and take it as your own. You're trying to understand more about the construction of garments themselves. You're trying to understand, okay, the way they did this pattern, the way that they've done the dyeing is something that is just more information that you can add to your toolbox that you might need trying to tell your story or a specific story that you're trying to tell through fashion. Yeah, I think that kind of mentality is just limiting overall, that you limit the amount of skills that you gain not looking at things that other designers have achieved.
Bro, and one of these things is that, and they speak about it almost everywhere that I look anyways, is the importance of having an extensive visual library, right? Whether you draw as a designs or like you're using, a program, or you're using creative ideas and all of these other things, or making fashion, it's like having an extensive visual library allows you to pull from other places and create your own designs responsibly. Because there is a good way to copy and there's a bad way to copy. And your copy can be the instance that allows for an even greater design. But you'll never have that if you don't make room or make an allowance for that. And I don't see why some people would say they don't want to copy after, let's say, you've been creating your own style in quotes for so many years now. And there's value in doing exactly like you said. So yeah, being influenced is important because it's your influences that influenced you to do the thing that you want to do now. You didn't just so happen to want to do fashion. Something influenced you to do that. So why would you stop the thing that helped you start in the first place?
Exactly. And you had to be influenced by something or someone. That was the starting point and the catalyst for why you started designing in the first place. It's kind of counterproductive in my mind to do that. And I meet designers all the time. They're like, yeah, I don't really follow fashion. I just kind of like Issey and that's about it. And I'm like,
beautifully explained. I've even gone to museums where I've had the privilege to be able to handle some of those dresses to learn even more. But I think the one thing I'd say to her, I mean, I'll share this with you because it was something that we only discovered this season. And it was thanks to modern technology, really. So I was upset. Yeah, I've done bias before and embroidered bias, and we've been quite happy with it, but not 100%. And I was just looking at some of the dresses. Anyway, through modern technology and kind of close-up photography, we were able to sit around the table with my team and study the way some of the beading had been applied and put together. And there was a bit of a eureka moment, because she's never written about this, you won't see it anywhere. She cuts the cloth and the bias, but she embroiders on the straight of grain. You can't read that anyway. I'm getting to the end of my career to discover that. It was like, wow, it's that simple. But, I mean, you see her embroideries, this is nothing. It's like liquid material, gorgeous, So, and it's never, you won't read that anywhere. I mean, and it took, the people I was working with are like amazing premiers, technicians. Gianna had done the artwork with us, and we were all taking it apart and making this thing bigger. And it was like, wow, that's just like the best kept secret that I just shared with you all. But researchers.
How many of these designers do you think are actually taking what he said? And actually, how many designers do you think after he said this, they went home and tried to experiment with the technique? How many?
I don't even think it was more than 10%. And I think 10% is maybe, oh my days.
If I was a designer, I would have gone home and tried that technique the second I went home. The same way that when a journalist is speaking about fashion, they talk about some history of art I've never heard of, or some designer that influenced this that I've never heard of. I'm going straight back to my house and seeing what books are on it, see if they've done any interviews, what documentaries have been done. So that's kind of sad that we would think that, less than 10% would go and experiment with what he's just said.
Yeah. And one of my things with all of that is you can tell the joy that he had in finding that. And he's actually stupefied by that, and the value that he just dropped in a random minute in a random interview is absolutely mind-boggling to me. And the room did not react the way that I wanted them to react, because if I found out a technique, I remember those days where I would be studying life drawing and I will be studying anatomy. And I found an amazing video. And the first thing I did before I even started attempting it is that I sent it to my friend and then I started drawing again. And then when someone would reference a book, one of my teachers would reference a book, I would look that book up, see if I can find the PDF, and then save that PDF, put it in a hard drive so that I always have it in that hard drive, and then see how much the book is and put it in my book list to buy. That is like the degree of how much care some people can have about it. I'm not saying I care the most, but I know I care a lot. And yeah, I think it's important when people say something valuable that it shouldn't be treated randomly, which is why I picked out.
Like, do you know how valuable that? Like, first of all, John Galliano has been designing since before I was born. Let's just start there. So the amount of experience, the amount of experimentation that someone like him has done with all the techniques you can think of, for him at this age, at this stage of his career, to tell you about something that he's been trying to figure out and he just learnt, is some of the most invaluable like stuff for him to say. That it's shocking as a designer if you say that you want to be a designer and you go home after hearing that from someone like him and don't experiment on it, you probably don't want to be a designer. Maybe you think you do, but you probably don't.
Bro, for him to
because that means you don't have that enthusiasm there. There's not that same passion.
Like at the age that he's saying that he's studying as well, he's a student at his big age. At his big age, like he's actually creating. He's 64 and he's constantly creating and he's constantly learning. And I'm sure he's probably studied, V&A ad nauseum, but at the same time, he still goes back to his old references, because what we may have a problem doing sometimes, especially when we're young, is like trying to hoard references and not actually going back to the library we already have and saying, all right, I know I've read this book on Balenciaga, but let me just read it again. Let me see if I can find something new and like contextualize it when I have now.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important part of the thing. Also, it's like you can tell who his favorite designers are and why he goes back to them. But then also it's something to take in from what he said, which is why I love this interview so much. It's like he's saying these things, but he's saying them with the understanding that he's been there before.
Exactly.
So it makes me say to myself, all right, where have I been before that I don't go back to? And then I go to my library of, I'm not going to say the number of books I have, but it's a heavy bookshelf. And I'll say, all right, let me just look at it again. Because I can be looking at, my love of books, but at the same time, we've got the references. Sometimes we have the references, we just need to look again so that we can find the right context.
Yeah, but that happens all the time. Like, even there'll be things that I just cannot remember and I'll have to go and find the book. Like, what book was that in? And then you have to find it and then constantly keep going back. So yeah, that's, as a designer, that's definitely something you should be doing. And if you're not, try to start doing it.
What was that? Can you imagine? We were so excited, I can't tell you.
Look at the joy on his
any
face.
artworks or film taught you a lot in your life?
So many, and I'm so grateful that with each collection, and I'm led to a door and I open that door and I'm introduced to the works of someone I didn't know. My team will introduce me, or poetry or music or films that I hadn't seen. I think with each collection I just learn more and more and more. Death in Venice, the music Mahler, and it's that real time, the way it's filmed and the mist and the colorings, and the story's beautiful as well, but that period and the way it's evoked and just the slowness of the story that kind of brings you in, and just exquisite beauty. Yeah, it's just a very beautifully shot, lit film. All the crops are like incredible. So I'd say that one if you haven't seen it.
Why was it important for you to take the time to find new techniques?
To push oneself, to push ourselves, myself as well. The idea that once you'd created that silhouette through the use of corsetry, that anything you did on top was just new. It had to fit, and it would never fit unless you came back to that waist measurement or hip measurement. So that de rigueur, the discipline of old school couture, but I hope interpreted in a lighter and more modern way. But still, the disciplines were very much there. But very much there. We go online sometimes too to try to find a solution or some little something. Sometimes we find the answer, but then sometimes it's just like you got to work it out. The fabric, you if you listen, it will tell you. A dialogue develops, and you can't make certain fabrics or force them to do things. They'll tell you how they want to be cut or draped, or have to listen. Yeah.
What are your greatest hopes for the future, and what are some of your concerns as well?
I think my greatest hopes for us, I mean, for our future, is that we continue to fly the flag, if you like, for couture, because I think really that's so important that we don't lose that, really. It's very important, I think, to move fashion forward. You're working with volumes and shape, and so I think that's really important that we all never let that die, because, you know, there are fewer and fewer couturiers around. So hurry up.
Look at his love of the game.
We need you to jump in and to never let that go, never lose that discipline.
How many of them will jump in, though? That's the question. How many people have that obsession with design that would want to get to that level? That's the problem.
Bro, this is the Patrice Evra version of I love this game. That's what it is. This is like the epitome of just like, this is his hurrah. Like, I could tell that this interview or video was his victory lap, but also his ability to drop jewels and just give game free game, because I guess he knew he wasn't gonna re-sign, I guess. So his attempt to share that, but this is the thing, right? So many of us, I'm gonna put myself in this bucket. I mean, in you know, the collective, is our generation loves the idea of saying, oh, I work for so and so, or I've worked with this many designers over this course of this time. And I've actually heard that. I've actually heard that people say, oh no, I know this because I've worked with this person over here and that person over there and that person over there. That this is how we should do it. And sometimes, well, let's chill out. Are you really trying to be the best, or you say you...
Like, do labels mean anything? Like, how many Vogue articles have we seen where they get shit wrong? So, you know what I mean? Just because you worked at a brand or you worked at a magazine, it doesn't really actually mean fuck all. Like, unless, like, what do you actually know? What can you actually do? The proof is in the pudding. It isn't in, you know, like, oh, I worked for Vogue, so so I know this, or like I designed for this house. It's like, did you when you designed at the house, were you seeking knowledge, or were you just there to tick boxes and fill numbers?
Gang, oh my days, that was a mic drop for real. No, that's real. That's real, because some people, they think that their CV is the center of the universe, and it validates them in some particular way. And then when other people leapfrog over them and get, let's say, a higher position in the industry, if you can say it like that, then they're the ones that get up in arms. Those are the people that are like, oh, the game is all screwed up with these people doing their live streams and all of this and all of that. And it's like, oh,
he took it there. That's funny.
Do you actually love this game, and would you do anything to participate? Or are you just there to get a paycheck and look after your family, which is great. I love people that do that. But don't hate on, you know, what is where you're supposed to be, because sometimes we can miss the boat. And I never ever want to be someone that misses the boat. And if I do, I need somebody to tell me so that I can swim. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how much I love this game. It's like, yo, there shouldn't be a stoppage point. We're always in injury time, because there's someone always on the come up.
You know, dressmaking and understanding how to construct a dress, how to engineer a dress, the scaffolding, if you like, before you decorate it and build. And we never want to lose that. And supporting that, you know, some of those embroiderers, or, you know, the different suppliers that work with us as well, we have to keep them busy, keep them going, and bringing in new blood. Very important, especially in this world as well. You know, one draws conclusions from algorithms, and even some creative decisions are made by algorithms. That's why couture, we have to, it's from your heart. You know, you ask, where's the heart? I think they'll never work that. They'll never work that. It's you, your emotion, your hand that you feel. Always be authentic. You won't go wrong, I don't think. Be your authentic, true self.
I think we're all wondering if you could give us a piece of advice for our graduates that are going to enter the fashion industry.
Piece of advice.
Something we should be aware of, or...
Sleep on your mate's couch.
And never give up on the dream. I mean...
He basically just said that.
There's going to be times that are really challenging.
Like sleeping on the couch.
Yep.
Maybe a graduation show, I don't know. No, but even outside in the real world, there's going to be times where you might be disappointed. But every time that you learn something. You really learn something that's so, at the time, you're feeling quite down and disappointed. No, a week later, you've learned something. I don't know, with that disappointment comes something that you learn that is invaluable, I think. Because if we didn't have those moments, we wouldn't learn anything, would we? I mean, so, yeah, it's not nice to have those buttes or a critique that went really badly. But, I mean, it is the only way you learn, isn't it? I mean, you can take it on board, you can agree or not. But I always learnt something from those situations. Never give up the dream. Don't listen to anyone. Keep going. You'll get there.
I think it was.
Yep, that was one of the ideas. This was the collection that it was mainly famous because of the walk of the model.
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes, that went viral.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I
that was.
remember being on Twitter before I was on fashion Twitter, and I was defending it, and people unfollowed me. They were like, you think you're just so fashion? I was like, listen, I don't know what to do. I live for this.
Yeah. No, this collection was really famous. I thought there was a time when everyone was talking about it because it was like this idea of. I can't remember. It was either I know it was like something to do with. I have to do my research, but I remember it was something to do with women that were either nurses or something, or like in the Navy in the war, something along those lines. But if you guys know specifically about this collection, let me know. But that was kind of where a lot of the references were coming from. But this would actually be an interesting collection for me to go back and do research on, actually.
Yeah, so it's like good wartime references. I believe it was Army medics.
Is that? Oh, did you have a look?
No, I'm going off my memory. I might be wrong.
Okay. There's a podcast on it I have memory of. Yeah, I was talking about that podcast earlier. Let me write that down. After I come off this, I'm going to listen to that. SS20 Margiela. That'll be interesting.
Military nurses.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The cutouts are about spotlights. Okay, someone saying military nurses and a uniform. So I guess I was along the right track, but the show happened quite long ago, and I remember that season I covered so many shows, so I can't remember clearly, but that's why we always look back.
I want a book of all of his seasons at Margiela, to be fair.
That would be amazing, to be honest.
Yeah. Him and J.W. Anderson. Shout out to J.W. Anderson, decade at Lloyd, by the way.
Does time really fly that fast?
Yes, it's actually crazy.
I was looking at, because I was like, oh, when did these like collections happen that I really love, like Swark? And I was like, oh my God, that's basically 4 years ago already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's starting to feel like that where it's like, raw.
I'm actually old. Like,
yeah.
How was that 4 years ago?
No. Okay, here we go.
I remember that coat. A lot of people had that. That coat was really popular online. Like, a lot of influencers had that coat.
Okay, he was telling the models. This is around the time where he was like doing the characterization thing in terms of like all the models are trying to have different walks. So not all of them have the same walk and tempo of which they're walking, which is kind of chaotic, but it gives an amazing effect. And look at all the guys in heels, by the way. That's fire. Shout out to the man them. Yeah, from look at I think he called it a beret. What's the
beret?
The hat is called. But he also did that hat in a previous season, not the hat specifically. Shout out to what I'm saying, the midwiferys and the African nurses and that. But
see, Dammy, they're quoting you with the shout out to Ozempic.
Oh, yo,
that's a famous Dammy quote.
You guys are referencing from long ago. Shout out to you guys for referencing very well. We talk about harkening back. So yeah, as we can see, the walks of different tempos. It's going to start to get brazy.
Until we get to the end, and then it was like, all these dead-ass memes. Walking into my mum's purse, be like, walking into my next job, be like...
Oh yeah, I was going to say something about the hat. So he's always had this thing with hats, right? But the slick down ones that look like the hats from the 50s, specifically, especially where he did the hair for that, I believe it was a 2018 or 2019 collection. I think it was a collection shown in 2018, about 2019. And he was using the hat to mold and sculpt the hair as if it was in the rain.
Right.
And with these ones, he was attempting to do picturesque hair because he did it. Like, it was an evolution of how he did the hair in the previous collection. And I thought that was amazing. I do remember that. You thought you had a pocket. That's gang.
I love those trousers. I was just staring at the shape of those trousers. Yeah, very high-waisted.
I got trousers like that. They don't taper that much to the leg. but I was wearing them today. Those purses are amazing, by the way. I forget who said it, but yeah. Shout out to collections where all you love isn't just the purses. You love the actual clothes as well.
Did you see that bracelet though?
Them socks. There was something about the socks or the brooch. Oh my god, I really love the brooch in that one look. Wait. Shout out to.
Isn't it so funny how these guys are literally calling you Dichi?
That's funny. Wait, that means that means you must follow me on either Discord or Instagram. Oh, or Twitter.
It's the people from Discord that call you definitely.
Definitely.
It says I think this is my last collection I bought ready to wear from. Interesting. Like Margiela ready to wear. Interesting.
Shout out Dichi, shout out to Ozempic. Wow. Eli Lilly are doing numbers. But yeah, shout out to the people that invest.
But yeah, when I think about it, this actually was the viral collection before the viral collection, to be honest.
This was like the start of a crescendo. This is also when bare people started to want to go to Margiela. Because if you look at the earlier collections, they were just like, I remember there was this one collection where it was just.
I thought they were really good. I just think the buzz wasn't there.
Yeah, but he did have a collection prior to this where it was like he had graffiti on the clothes. It looked like graffiti, anyways. It was probably, but yeah, those rips from being hard at war. Oh my gosh, the layering effects of the opaque. What's up?
No, she just said we remember when there were two Leos because Luke, obviously, like. People call him Leo, I guess. So his username used to be Leo, and he changed it to Luke.
Oh, okay. Specifically because of the stream. Look at the influence.
Yeah, that's the viral moment.
Oh yeah, TikTok gripped this one.
Yeah, TikTok had this clip, this walk had TikTok in a chokehold for a good few months. Like TikTok wasn't ready for that.
This walk got me unfollowed. I was like, you just don't understand. They were like, we don't give a F. And then they don't. Yeah, fam. It's like, I didn't like the way that you were explaining it. You sounded condescending. I was like, oh, damn. I ain't mean it.
Social media had a field day with him, but he laughed his way to the... I mean, he probably did.
Galliano or the model?
Both. Because as a model, if you have a viral moment, it just makes... Because I've worked for brands where, like, we want to book a model and we're still like wasting time thinking about it. And then they walk their first Chanel runway show a week after and then their price just goes up like really crazy. So these kind of moments, because also people like will want to do commercials with you because, you know, you're the person that everyone is talking about. No, your price goes up as a model when you have a viral moment. So the model definitely loved his way to the bank. 100%. Yeah, Finn, I was giving so much praise to the Swart collections early on. Like, if you watch the stream back, if you have the time, the first, let's say, 20 to 30 minutes, I was just praising and just talking about the ideas and the references and stuff. Those are my favorite collections from John Galliano Margiela.
When I knew I was obsessed with John Galliano's Margiela was when I loved the Resort 2022 collection. I was like, oh wait, I'm caping. I was like, I'm caping. I need to stop.
For me, it was definitely sealed with a loving kiss. SWOC stands for sealed with a loving kiss. And when I was developing these ideas for the artisanal collection, I had an epiphany in which... No, I love the way John Galliano sounds. It's so interesting.
Yo, Leo, you are right though. Graffiti is art. Shout out to graffiti. Shout out to graffiti. Don't bang the same like shout out to Ozempic. That was such a random thing I said on one stream that like no.
It was so weirdly so random.
I forgot what I was even talking about.
I was talking about SWOC. And you said that when you really knew that you liked Margiela was when you liked the Resort collection.
I was caping. No, not when I liked it. When I knew I was caping.
Oh, okay.
I was started caping that Resorts collection. I was like, bro, you're doing too much. It's a Resort collection. No, because I really, really loved the spring ready to wear 2021. Then it was a fall 2021 couture, and then the spring 2022 ready to wear, and then the Resort came out. I was like, I love this too. I probably done it. Like, if I look at it today, I need to see if I still love it, to be fair. That hat is really nice, though.
Yeah. Finn is just balling out of control. Another collection where I have pieces from... Damn, I forget what You know you're breaded when you forget what you...
Yeah, money long.
What kind of closet do you have, Finn? Just some crazy walk-in closet. It's like, I just don't know where things are. You know, artisanal
Oh,
2020
Tavana.
Margiela. I just don't have a clue where it is.
I think this is started the America references.
Yeah.
The Blair Witch Trials, I'm pretty sure is referenced in one collection. Yeah, that was 2021. Yeah, that was spring 2021. Ready to wear.
I mean, this is spring summer 2019 on
I
the
think
screen.
the fall 2020 couture was when he did the cowboy one. That's when he went full Americana.
Yeah, I'm in the corner.
Americana. But no, this live was amazing.
No, it's been so much fun, honestly, talking about Galliano and the Margiela, because I think a lot of it goes unnoticed, minus, the viral but I feel like that has been covered so much at this point. I don't think there's more to add.
Yeah, I meant the same.
So
You're right.
I'm more interested on the other stuff, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance, I guess, we kind of unraveled in that interview also. I wonder if the name of the video is going to be Galliano Circle Jerk, and it's a hour and 20 video of us breaking down.
Good luck to the editor, because as we were speaking, because it's not segmented into parts, I wonder how he's going to clip this, but good luck.
Yeah, man. Hey, there's a lot of good little clips, I guess, and your editor's been doing a good job. Fairly.
Yeah, he's been killing it. This entire stream was about Galliano. I'm surprised we haven't jumped from subject to subject. No, today is Galliano Day.
Yeah, we stuck on subject. It was kind of cool, to be fair.
We stuck on Galliano for a good 3 hours. Where else on the internet are you going to find people that ramble about Galliano for 3 hours? Nowhere. Nowhere. It doesn't exist.
It was an illusion.
It was an optical illusion. It was a trompe l'oeil.
I need to closet and Ayo's bookshelf for sure. And
yeah, Finn, we're gonna need a closet tour soon.
Yeah, we need a one-of-one video where we just go through all of your looks and pieces.
This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.